welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is a tree I've really been having some fun with over the last couple years. I think it's turning out pretty nice. Just for now, I have it in a little training pot here. A little scar right there. Is actually the cutting that I have that I also am growing and having some fun with and everything. In January of 2020, it was a big box store save that I got. I got it for like $3, I think. It was about the size of my pinky. I will put this in a playlist, and if you guys want to go back through the playlist and see the history of it or whatever. This scar at first had a little branch coming out on the top, and it kind of withered up. And then it sprouted this one down here at the bottom of the scar, and it's not even quite in the scar there. You guys can see it's kind of below it a little bit. I'd like to, I've been trying to let that go and heal that up, but that was kind of, if you go back through the videos, it's kind of going just straight up this way or whatever. So the last time I had it wired, I kind of had the wire on there for a while, and it, noticeably weakened the tree a bit. I took the wire off and pruned it, and I wired basically this with this little branch here that's probably going to come off today. I'm not really sure. I'm going to wait until I get the wire off. And then I also wired these two up here. It was just a couple that I had skipped before, and those were sticking straight up too. And I've let it go pretty much through the winter. I don't think I think that was kind of early fall when I did this, and I kind of haven't done anything to it since. But today, obviously I'll take that wire off. I'm going to prune everything hard. I'm going to prune a couple of these branches coming off here that aren't going to be keepers, but I think I'm going to leave the rest of it because it's spring, and right now this tree will just really kind of grow out here and everything. And I do kind of want to finish healing that scar up, and by letting that go, that should help that a lot. And the rest of it, I'm just going to go ahead and, like I said, prune, wire it, and I think it should look pretty good here when I'm done. First thing I'll do is take the wire off. All right, so the wire's off now. I believe I started to mention earlier that this has been my idea of what would be the back of the tree, mainly because of the scar here, and then it's showing here. I've been treating this as the front of the tree because it's clean. It has this little eye poker here that I just kind of actually left on there. Just gave me something to wire that branch to just kind of temporarily for a second. The more I think that the other side may become a little bit more the more interesting side, if you will, or whatever. I'm open for many changes. I mean, still in the training pot. I think the next time I really do much with it, I'm going to try to maybe lift it in there just a little bit, just to kind of get a look at what the Nabari might look like, because some of this trunk here, this lower branch, and then this has a bigger root coming off the side here. The root spread actually does come out to like there, where the trunk is only there. So I'm thinking I'd like to raise it just a little bit, maybe in this pot. I wish I had like another type of training pot, just a little bit wider than this, and a little bit more shallow. That branch, I just wanted to get the ones that were coming straight up. Another reason why I want to let it kind of go a little bit is that not only do I want it to heal up the wound, but I want to keep it. And I want it to get as thick, preferably a little bit thicker than this one. That's all I'll do to that. I'll leave that. Everything else, I'm going to cut every growing tip. And of course, take out all the rule breaking branches, etc. right, and as I go along, I do try to kind of keep in mind that as much as I want to let some of the shoots go out and develop and let me get some wire on there, I also just want to kind of keep in mind that I want to keep some taper back. And also, as much as I'd like to have those shoots kind of, you know, spread out, make a really wide tree, I also kind of want to keep some taper going. This is basically where I've been considering the apex to be, and I'm going to trim everything else first and then decide how much of that I want to keep. Every time I've been pruning this, 2 times ago I chopped right there, then the last time I chopped here, and actually 3 times ago I chopped right there. And I may just kind of let it go as a little bit of a sacrifice apex for now, and then cut it off and have my 4th tiger bark tree, because that'll be a perfect size cutting in about 2-3 months or something like that. Or maybe about 2 months, like whenever it starts really recovering from this, I could take that and have plenty of growth on it. I'll just kind of, but see, I'm going to leave that to the end though. I'm going to wait and see what it looks like once I get everything else pruned up here. And on this side over here, as I do kind of come through, I think I'd like to, you know, when I do wire it down, that'll kind of come down like this. This one then almost even comes out past that. And then, you know, I'm looking, this has very little taper in it. Sometimes I always try to save so much ramification when I know that you can kind of cut it back and let it get some more. So I'm going to pop that off there. And then because, you know, you don't want any of these upper branches being out below the lower ones, I'm going to cut this back to about there. And then the same thing with this guy here. That one's coming straight down off of that one. Go ahead and do that too. All right, it's a little more Edward Scissorhandish than I really planned to be, but I do think for the long term effects that is going to be the best. And now I'm just going to kind of take a look here and see I can get some good wire on these. Try to get a little more movement in there, even though it's already a tree with some character to it. Maybe a little bit of green up here. And then that should continue to push out, keep some sap going up the tree. This will obviously, grow like gangbusters, especially now that I cut all that other stuff back. And then when I go to work it the next time, I'll take this as a cutting. One day whenever I do feel as if, it's kind of to the size and the proportion that I want, I do want to keep this tree kind of short, probably make somewhat of a sumo out of it. Before I do that, I'll start, wiring one, wiring another, and maybe pruning that one and then wiring that one, wiring that one. But for now, I'm going to plan on that coming off. But instead of doing a big chop, I'll just hedge prune it for now. And then as that kind of recovers, I'll do the big chop, take that off as a big cutting, and then just regrow a smaller apex or, a more tapered apex there and see what happens from there. So, this. Pop that branch off there. And then just kind of leave that like that. First area of the tree to recover will be there and here. And the rest of it, like I said, just maintain some movement in there and everything. Alright, and so the wire's on there. Really is amazing how, when I first got into the hobby, I had myself convinced I'd never use any wire. But once you do start using it, it can become kind of like slightly addicting in that without any wire, in order to keep this looking like it just had a whole bunch of, limbs just reaching for the sky, you'd have to clip and clip and clip and clip and clip really to kind of keep that stuff down. Where once you kind of lower the branches and, put a little wire on there or whatever, it really does kind of hold that downward look a little bit more. We'll see what happens. I did try to put the thickest wire I've got on there. Well, I didn't try to, I did. And again, whenever I do this, I try to get as much movement as I can, but I also try to use some of the kind of like old movement that it had. And just like this case here, when I try to get that second move out of there, the second move sometimes just seems to straighten it back out. Alright, that should be enough to kind of keep a little bit of the current movement that it has in there. Depending on how this thing kind of goes, if it starts kind of coming up a little bit too much, I might just take and wrap a wire around the pot, hold it down like that. Not so that it looks better, but just so that it doesn't start getting that, start straightening out that branch too much more. I don't really want it to be like this again, kind of like this one was starting to get. I may wind up a couple times, maybe like later in the summer or whatever, I may wind up kind of wedge cutting that so that it blends in there a little bit better rather than kind of looking like it arches like it does now. And then no wire on the apex today. I think after kind of taking a second look at it, I'll probably wind up taking that cutting like here in probably 2-3 months. We'll just see what happens, how long it kind of takes until I feel like it's going to need a little bit of work again. A little bit of a bulge right there. I meant to mention that earlier. I do think as this and this kind of widen out the bottom a little bit more, it should kind of counteract that bulge just a bit there. Alright, so I just hit that side and that side. Of course, hindsight's always 20/20. If I kind of could have seen how this was going to work out, I might have done that before I got that wire on there. I don't really want to dull my knife and wind up scraping on that wire too much. Left it alone along the bottom because it's got the growth coming off there. But really look forward to seeing what happens with this tree in the future.